Hey folks, it's Rob. Welcome back. We're continuing our series today on the Monstrous Compendium Appendix for the Mystara setting from 1994's TSR, episode 23, continuing on page 64. Thank you very much for joining me. If you like my content, don't forget to, do all the YouTubey things. It does help. I appreciate it, and I thank you. So today we have just quickly, we have the Hutaakan, right? And we're going to do Imps. Imps is actually 2 pages, so that's why it's going. That's all we're going to do. We're going to do 3 pages as usual. Um, let's get into the Hutaakan. We have here a couple. Well, they're dog-like people. They The one holding a spear seems to be wearing pantaloons of some type, and the other one is in a dress or toga or robe, right? Uh, the I don't know. The one with holding a spear can't help but seem a bit like Roman, Greek, uh, Hammurabian, Babylonian, that kind of thing, right? Uh, and then of course you have ceremonial robes and large prominent gold. Uh, I hesitate to call it a necklace with how broad it is, and then some kind of ear adornment that comes down, right, and to the chest. How awkward would that be to wear, right? And headdress slash hat, holding some kind of wand. The images come over pretty okay. They're again once again darker, lighter than they would be. The book is darker than what I'm showing you in the scan. Like you can't see the spearhead here because it is so blown out and gone. But I assure you, there is a diamond spear point up here. Um, and yeah, the robe is still present, fortunately. Let's get into it. It's got 3 descriptions and it only gets the 1 page. So, Hutaakan comes in priest, warrior, and other types. They are found in temperate mountains or ruins. Uh, Frequency is very rare. They are organized into towns, interestingly. They are active at night. They are omnivores. Priests are very intelligent, 11 to 12, while warriors and other are average intelligence. Treasure type S or I, depending on the case. In all cases, they are lawful neutral. 1d4 plus 1 will appear in the priest or warrior category, while the other gets a d10. Priests are AC 7 with a bracketed 10 here. Warriors are AC 6 with a bracketed 10, while other is just simply 10. All have movement rate 9. The priest has 2 hit dice, while the warrior has 1 plus 1, and other has a single hit die. So, not that tough. These are probably, well, they're intelligent humanoids, so they're not adventurers, but they have, it seems to be a humanoid culture, right? Uh, to hit AC 0 is 19, except for other, which is 20. They get 1 attack. The priest has a 1d6 plus 1 mace. The warrior gets a d6 for sword or spear, while other gets a d4 for a club. Priests have spells as a special attack, while warriors and other do not have anything as a special attack. Special defenses, priest can move silently at 20%. Warrior can also, well, basically they can all move silently at 20%. So it's a racial characteristic, let's call it. No magic resistance. They are size medium, approximately 6 foot tall, so human size it's trying to tell us. Morale is steady for priests at 11. Morale is 12 for warrior, and average 9 for other. Priest is worth 65 XP, the warrior is worth 15, and other is worth 7. The Hutaakans are a haughty, callous race dominated by their priests. The tall, slender humanoid Hutaakans have jackal-like heads, but otherwise resemble ascetic humans with narrow hands and feet. Hutaakans often decorate or carve their heavy, claw-like nails to represent their rank and station in life. Even the most simple and unassuming of these creatures wear long, somber robes with the occasional addition of a simple piece of jewelry. They speak in a fluting, mellifluous tones, using a complex language possessed of a haunting musical quality. That could be hard for you to do if you weren't prepared to do this, but I'm assuming you're not just going to roll this up off a random encounter table, right? You're going to settle I mean, these are apparently settled in towns, so you're going to have a Hutaakan encounter prepared, right? So if you're going to do that, you can either disregard that instruction about how they speak, or you're going to need to prepare for them to talk in an interesting way. Combat. The Hutaakans are not a boldly aggressive race. They consider themselves above physical combat with the lesser mortal races, including humans and other humanoids. They will, however, fight without mercy when forced to do so. Hutaakans prefer strategies involving ambush, and they attack with missile weapons when possible. That was not even described. I mean, unless you're going to count the spears. But I would assume that they'd be able to at least use slings in that case, right? If not bows. Hutaakans, other than trained warriors, rarely fight. Fair enough. Priests are loath to sully themselves in combat and rarely do battle, save when directly attacked. Instead, they prefer to cast spells and call out instructions from a safe distance. Most priests have 2 hit dice and can cast spells like a second-level priest. However, the most powerful Hutaakan priests can achieve higher experience levels up to 11th with corresponding hit dice, spells, and experience point values. These higher-level priests lead Hutaakan society. So, okay, make a Hutaakan cleric, right? Because that's effectively what priests are in 2nd edition. They are the expression of clerics. They're also the expression of druids. Anything that does that side of the magic street is basically a priest. In combat, warriors tend to use spears, short swords, and sometimes slings. Well, there we go. They typically wear studded leather armor and carry a shield. Priests wear leather armor and carry a shield. They prefer as weapons elaborately carved maces dedicated to one or more of their immortals. Although other Hutaakans are not skilled at fighting and wear no armor, they can defend themselves adequately with clubs. All Hutaakans have infravision, 60-foot range, and a 20% chance to move silently as a thief. Okay. So, can't imagine. I mean, there's a debate, right, of the infravision types. Do they sit around in light, or do they just naturally rely on their infravision and sit in the dark? I think that if they use fire and are, you can generally see a bit further if there's enough illumination. The infravision only goes to 60 feet. So think about how it is intelligently used. If they're in an area with fire, if they routinely use fire, or if they have long areas they need to keep an eye on, those areas might well be lit instead of relying on infravision. But otherwise, like say for example at home, unless they're like a scribe or a priest, for example, they probably rely on infravision unless they need to be able to see visibly what they would normally need to handle. Habitat/society. In Mystara, the Hutaakan Empire once covered much of what is now the kingdom of Karamakos. Today, the few surviving Hutaakans speak vaguely of a great catastrophe that decimated their brilliant race. The remaining examples of their species live in small, isolated communities scattered throughout the known world. Hutaakan priests rigidly control these communities and destinies of the survivors. In general, the creatures the creatures consider themselves a sensitive, civilized, intellectual people, forced to suffer as the result of the barbarous world's cruel dominance over their cultured nature. Ecology. Hutaakans often keep valuable coins, potions, gems, and items of rare beauty on their persons and in their homes. These people pride themselves on both their good taste and their lack of involvement with the rest of the world. Spoilery, these do seem to be a remnant population from the Nithian Empire, which used to exist in the known world thousands of years before they were, well, there's even more to that story. Uh, but the jackal heads make them much like gnolls. Because it explicitly says jackal, not just like wolf or dog. Even though, basically it is kind of a dog head, right? But that's what hyenas are kind of like. Hyenas are kind of like dogs, but they're not dogs. Interesting. Obviously, something different to use for your campaign. But in a way, they're kind of used like lost Tibetan monks, right? And that makes them difficult to focus your campaign around unless you're going to radically change what you're doing. But yeah, why couldn't you? You could have this lost empire reappear from through a dimensional gate or something, right? Let's move forward to our second category today, imps. So, we can see we have 3 listings for imps, wood, bog, and garden, but this is a 2-pager, and it's on page 65 and 66, which are unfortunately the front and back of a page. So it's not a 2-page spread as you have the book open, which I personally find unfortunate as we're staying, we're obviously sticking with an alphabetical format, which, makes a lot of sense for reference. However, it does mean that functionally this page, you have to keep flipping to what you want if you're interested in what's on the back page, right? Because, look, see, right? Now, once again, our images are quite faded compared to what is actually here in my hand, because the green is way more prominent in the book I'm holding. We have 2 of our example imps. We have this guy with the troll hair here, and we have this guy with this grassy back, right? And is he a little dragonfly here? You can't really see its wings. And let's go. We have this character here. I think he's an interesting character, and he doesn't lose out too much in the scan. But that's our artwork. Let's see if we can put them to the names, right? So starting out, now these 3 will be rather different, so I'm going to move through each one individually. First off, we have Wood Imp, Temperate Forest, frequency rare. They have tribes. They are active at night. They are carnivores. Average intelligence 8 to 10. Treasure S, but C, N in the layer. They are chaotic evil. 1d8 appear. Armor class 6 with 10 in brackets. Again, this would be, an unarmored figure. Movement 9. Hit dice 1 to 6 hit points. So not even a full hit die, but 1 to 6 hit points. To hit AC 0 is 20. They get 1 or 2 attacks. Damage for attack is D3 for a bite or D4 for an arrow, D4 for an arrow. So I guess that's the 2 attacks. Special attacks are poison, surprise, and snares. No special defense, no magic resistance. They are tiny, 1.5 to 2 feet tall. They are steady morale, 11. XP value is 65 for the base Wood Imp, 120 for a leader, 175 for a chief, and 270 for a shaman. Guess we're gonna... You know what? I'm gonna read the description for the Wood Imp, and then we'll move back to the stat block for the bog, and so on and so forth, right? Imps are nasty, diminutive creatures that roam the world causing mischief to all they meet. Three forms of imp inhabit the world's wilds of Mystara: the wood, the bog, and garden imps. Wood imps. Wood imps are small, evil humanoids that live in dark forests. These green-skinned creatures stand 1.5 to 2 feet tall and are always seem to have numerous twigs and leaves tangled in their wild wood-brown hair. So that would be this fellow right here, I'm guessing. All right. Their little faces are quite round, each bearing a gaping slit of a mouth filled with needle teeth. Wood imps normally dress themselves in stolen scarves and strips of bark. Combat. Wood elves hate to enter battle head on, instead relying most often on guile and trickery. Because of this, imps' protective collaboration, opponents suffer a -2 penalty to their surprise rolls. The creature's bite causes 1d3 points of damage and often leaves a lingering, although non-damaging, rash. Creatures rarely use this attack, however. Instead, they lay ambushes near traps they have set. Usually they favor concealed pits and snares. Victims who fail a saving throw versus paralyzation with a -2 penalty find themselves caught in a trap. The imps then either capture them or slay them with poison arrows, see below. As well as laying ambushes, wood imps also actively hunt those foolish enough to enter their territory, driving the intruders straight into their traps. When hunting, wood imps ride large spiders. Their special saddles allow them to stay mounted even while the spiders cling to the undersides of tree branches. Wood imps most often attack with short bows, which they can fire even when upside down. The arrows inflict 1d4 points of damage. An imp can fire 2 shots per round. It might choose to spend a round coating an arrowhead in spider venom. In spider venom, it retrieves from its mount. Characters the arrow hit make a saving throw versus poison with a +2 bonus. Those who failed become sluggish for 2d4 plus 2 rounds. Sluggish creatures roll for initiative with a penalty of +3 and move at half speed until the effect wears off. The non-fatal poison has no cumulative effect. If the arrows are not fired the round after they are coated in venom, the poison evaporates and must be reapplied. If forced to enter melee, wood imps drop out of the trees, still astride their spiders, and attack opponents with their small two-handed swords, damage 1d6, while spiders attack with their bites. It'd be useful if the spiders had been described, right? Pick an appropriate spider or stat one out yourself, is what I would say, if you're going to use this encounter. Certainly you don't need to set up a whole imp, tribal village. If you want to have one, just like a set trap and a wood imp ambush in a forest, right? That's perfectly reasonable to have, but you wouldn't want to work out what kind of trap, and beyond that, how many imps you're dealing with. Moving to page 66 here. Habitat/society. These tribal petty creatures get along well only with their large spiders, occasionally with each other too. For every 10 wood imps, there lives one leader with 1 -1 hit die, so that would be, I believe we're still using the D8 hit point die here, so that would be 1 to 7 hit points. However, these leaders rarely wield much control over their people, often resorting to violence or bribery to get a group to act in concert. An entire tribe follows a chief with 1 hit die. If these chiefs are slain, wood imp morale drops to 7. 50% of tribes also have 1d4 shamans, priests, first to 4th level. Ecology. Wood imps keep their prisoners and fresh food in lairs amongst old and rotted trees. The captives usually consist of 2d6 creatures varying from small humanoids like kobolds and humans to forest creatures. Any trap they might set would probably be in line with any prey they're expecting to encounter, such as, a deer, human, but probably not like, say, for example, a giant, right? Um, moving forward, we're going to do the Bog Imp. We're going to read his stat block, and then we're going to read about the Bog Imp. So that means back to 65, I'm afraid, for the image, for those of you watching. So, Bog Imp, any swamp. Oddly enough, the Bog Imp lives in a swamp. Yep. They are rare. Again, tribe organization. They are active at night. They are carnivores. They are of average intelligence, 8 to 10. Treasure type O, but A in the lair. Chaotic evil again. 2d6 appear. Armor class 7 or 10. Movement 9. Hit dice 1 minus 1. So, a little tougher than the Wood Imp. To hit AC 0 is 20 still. Number of attacks 2 or 1. They get 2 D3 claws or 1 D2 dart. Special attacks are poison, surprise, snares, and camouflage. Their special defense is camouflage. Magic resistance is nil. They are, again, size tiny, but they are 2 feet tall. Morale is steady at 11, and they only come in one flavor for XP, 120. Going to the description of the Bog Imp, which I'm pretty sure is going to be how things go, is going to be this guy with the grassy back here. But let's see. Bog Imps, cousins of the Wood Imps, live only in the deepest swamps and fens and have adapted well to their wet surroundings. These wizened creatures have dark, gnarled skin, wide mouths, and slightly protruding eyes. Their grass-like hair grows from the top of their matted, greasy heads clear down their backs of their legs. A Bog Imp has long, dexterous fingers and can sound a cry akin to that of a puppy. Okay. Combat. As with their woodland cousins, Bog Imps avoid direct combat. They hide very effectively in their natural environment, curling into small grass-covered hummocks. They become effectively invisible to the eye, although not to infravision, but remain vulnerable to trackers that can scent them. Their camouflage causes opponents to suffer a -4 penalty to surprise rolls. When forced to attack head-on, the creatures tear at their enemies with their sharp claws, D3 hit points per damage each, aiming for very vulnerable areas such as the nose and eyes. Normally, however, Bog Imps attack by luring their victims to the edge of a standing pool or fen, besides which they have laid snares. Creatures are adept with these snares, as opponents can avoid them with a successful saving throw versus paralyzation, modified by a -2 penalty to the Imp's skill. The creatures attempt to pull ensnared victims underwater in hopes of drowning them. Those caught in one of these snares must make a successful saving throw versus paralyzation, or lose their footing and fall into the water, where more imps wait with weighted ropes and nets to hold them under. Once underwater, victims can drown, as explained in the swimming rules in the player's handbook. A successful bend bars roll allows character in the water to break away from the creatures unaided. Obviously, other party members might choose to assist. I would allow them to generally succeed. Or you may want to make a modified roll or use advantage rolls if you like doing that kind of thing. I like the advantage mechanic, even though it's not built into any version of the game from the 20th century. Technically. I think it appeared in, I think the mechanic technically appeared in the Monster Manual for, one creature in, 1981. It's not like the Monster Manual 2, was it? Or the Fiend Folio? Something. But it's an advance in the Dragons, and it's really minor point, and it's not a common feature. It wasn't common until later versions of the game. But I like the mechanic. But that's a huge diversion, I'm sorry. Bog Imps also enjoy firing darts from reed blowpipes at intruders. These darts cause 1d2 points of damage and are coated with a poison that causes weakness, as the spell of the same name. Victims who fail a saving throw versus poison lose 1 point of strength for 1d6 plus 1 turns. Effects of the poison are cumulative. So, they could just keep hitting you with weakness darts until eventually you collapse because you have no more strength. Um, Habitat slash society. Bog imps make their homes in caves or under hollowed logs in fetid swamps and fens. Their lairs always lie near the stagnant pools of water they use with their snares. They seem less organized than wood imps and have no leaders per se. Instead, the creatures solve internal quarrels by fighting, usually attempting to drown one another, until either they reach a resolution of some sort or a more interesting activity comes along. Bog imps hate other humanoids and love to catch and kill them in their snares. Ecology. The waters surrounding the lairs of a bog imp tribe often contain a great deal of treasure, the belongings of the imp's past victims. Personally, I would probably want to, first off, use the layers, like use the caves, use the logs, right? But also, some of the treasure just might be underwater. This would be a good use of water breathing spells, rings of water breathing, potions of water breathing that the party might have if they think to do so. I would reward them in that case. Let's go back to the Garden Imp, who we still see pictured here with its, possibly unsavory expression on its face. Garden Imp. Climate terrain, any garden. They are very rare. They are solitary. They're active at night. They're omnivorous, for a change. They are very intelligent, 11 to 12. They have treasure type R. They are chaotic neutral, so, not necessarily evil, but certainly in it for themselves and don't care what the rules are, right? Number appearing 1, armor class 8, with 10 in the bracket again. Movement 9, hit dice 1. To hit AC 0, 19. 1 attack, it's a D3 bite. Special attack is summon insects. Special defenses doesn't have any. No magic resistance. Size small, but this time 2.5 feet tall. They are elite morale 13 and 120 XP when you defeat one. Coming back to the actual description. Garden Imp. Garden Imps, though not quite as nasty as either their previously described relations, still can prove utterly selfish, dangerous creatures. These mottled, greenish-brown imps usually stand 2.5 feet tall and have pointed faces with large brown eyes and elf-like ears. Strange, lily-like flowers often grow in a garden's imp's soft brown hair as the spring in the spring and summer months. Combat. Garden imps, as with others of their kind, prefer to attack with guile. Each of these imps know its particular garden intimately and prepares a variety of traps, pits, and snares to which it can lead annoying visitors. One favorite trick of this monster involves leading the victim to the top of a small rise under which the imp has hollowed out a pit. The victim must make a successful saving throw versus paralyzation with a -4 penalty, or suffer 1d6 points of damage from a fall into the pile of thorny bushes the imp is placed in the pit beneath the rise. Little Vietnam flashback right there. These imps also can attack using swarms of tiny insects that obey their commands. Such swarms have the same characteristics as those created by the 3rd level priest spell Summon Insects. Finally, garden imps can bite opponents, inflicting 1d3 points of damage. Habitat slash society. These solitary creatures prefer to live in lush gardens that have been either abandoned or allowed to grow somewhat wild. An imp will keep watch over any dwelling attached to its garden. It normally treats the owners of such a home fairly, only bothering them if they attempt to drive it out or change its garden. Ecology. The flowers from the hair of the garden imp can be used in the creation of a potion of vitality, interestingly, and I imagine that they could be harvested from the imp without killing the imp. So if you can convince an exchange, it is a chaotic, neutral monster, and of some intelligence you can be reasoned with or bargained with. you could negotiate for some of those flowers. It also might not be a problem to people living near it, but it may be a problem to people who want to intervene in its private personal space of a wild overgrown garden that someone thought, trim back the hedge, would you? It's overgrowing the wall. Um, that'll be it for today. Thank you very much for listening to me today. I hope the day is finding you well. I hope you have a fantastic week. Join me next time, and we'll continue onwards with the giant jellyfish. Got that to look forward to. Good night, everybody.